got kind of a few things to talk about today. One thing I want to make a note of and talk about real briefly is that I did find that there was an important bug in my example code. In fact, there's a few issues kind of outstanding. I've added fix me's in some of those areas. And so I want to look at least at one of those, and maybe we'll look at some of those others today as well. But I do want to start by calling some attention to one bug that we have here. And I know that a number of people had this bug, and I saw this bug in a few people's code because they've kind of maybe copied my logic. So if you would take a look with me here at line 147, I think it is. I put a fix me on there. Does everybody see the problem? 147.
Yeah, you hard coded 0.
I hard coded 0 because remember when I was kind of setting this up initially, I started with 0 just for testing, and in that line I forgot to update to be the proper index. So, yep, go for it. So that's one thing. That's one thing here that we want to correct. So what do I need to do here to fix that problem, right? And what kind of issues is that gonna create? Yes.
So you want to replace the 0 with something that is dynamic, which is variable.
Right, is a variable rather than hard coding it as 0. Because effectively I'm just saying here, I'm only saying make the first icon visible, right? And so what does that mean for the rest of the icons? They might be hidden, right? They might be hidden. It's kind of a hard gotcha because notice when I run the program and I look at it, it may or may not be obvious what's happening, and I didn't notice it initially, because you notice there those other two movies. So I'm looking at all the movies. Notice that one has 2 icons, right? I didn't make the second icon visible, but that second icon is visible. Why is that? What?
Because you never set it to be invisible.
Right. So in the layout, remember, by default it's visible. So I didn't make it invisible. The problem is this gets into a weird case because if I scroll up and down, at some point it may become invisible and never come back to visibility. So we're tracking with me there. So it seems to work, but it's not really working. Things you have to remember is these view holders are being reused. So I have to acknowledge that, okay, maybe some previous usage of this only had 1 or 0 icons. Those might have been made invisible, okay? So where do we change visibility? Well, we change visibility right now on lines 141, up top in this case, 141, 147, and 169. So all 3 of those places we're changing visibility. So everybody see that? Okay. So, the other 2 cases we're always making it gone. This is the only case where we're making it visible. Okay. So easy fix would be to just say, I'm going to change this over to icon index. And that actually, just by changing that from 0 to icon index, should, I believe, fix the bug that's outstanding, right? I think that should fix that one little change should fix it, okay? Now, that kind of, to me, makes the code look a little bit ugly when I realize that, when I look at that. Because notice here, I'm kind of doing one thing. Before I get into the loop, into the switch, I'm doing the other half of it in the switch. right? What was the reason that I put it before the switch? Well, because it happens for every icon. I want to make it visible. But this is kind of weird because here I'm doing plus icon index plus plus, and I'm not doing icon index plus plus up there. You see that discrepancy? See that? Okay. So that can be an easy gotcha because, well, what happens if I just say this? What problem is that going to create? How's that going to behave differently or undesirably? So notice, if I do this, how many times does icon index be incremented? Twice, right? So if I do this, I make the first icon visible and then set the second icon. Make the third icon visible and set the fourth icon. So it's very easy to accidentally do this. And this is actually one of the reasons why I typically avoid doing the plus plus in there, even though it's a shorter syntax, because it makes these things, it gets you easily into those positions. It may seem a little bit more. One way I could structure this, if I went back to here, because I've seen students do this before, it's really not obvious because you're just kind of like, oh, well, this is what I did with this line. It should work with the other line, right? Without paying attention to the plus plus being in there. So what's a way that I could fix this? What way do I need to do this so that it's harder to make that mistake? Okay. Well, one thing I could do, and I might make a note real quick here. If also note that if I had done it afterward, it wouldn't have worked here either, because I would have already incremented and gone down here, right? So there's some dependency there. So what I might do is rather than putting the plus plus in there, I might go back to something like this. Get rid of the plus plus. And do something like this. There, it doesn't really matter which way I do it. Maybe I'll go back and just do plus plus at the end. Right. So if I do it down here, it's very clear that it's only going to happen once and not going to potentially happen multiple times. So oftentimes this way I might do it, even though sometimes the other way can be a little bit shorter. Cool. So problem resolved. Again, easy fixes if you just replace the 0 with an icon index, then it works. But I kind of would look at that and say, oh, I maybe need to change my code because I didn't realize that was an issue. It wasn't obvious. And I think that makes it a little bit more obvious what the intended behavior is. Cool. Okay, one problem down.